running the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, the Russians.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. I'm John Herold. As always, I am joined by Chris Paul. Chris, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. What an exciting week we have had. It has just been nonstop excitement since the show ended last Saturday evening.
It has been very exciting. We're going to talk about it. Full disclosure, though, guys, it isn't Saturday at the time of this recording. This is a pre-record. I'm going out of town for a couple days, and unfortunately, my flight leaves Saturday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. So we're going to record this early. We may miss some breaking news, like potential war with China or Cuba or whatever, but we'll get that next week instead. But yeah, what a weird, last Saturday was that the day that Iran did, or we did bomb Iran? Was that the kickoff day?
Well, it is the day that Trump announced that we bombed Iran. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So we did a pretty contentious episode, we thought, and then it turned out like we got a lot of feedback. I was like, that was like probably my favorite episode of yours. Mm-hmm. So that was really cool to see. And then as the week went on, we had the Noam firing, and we're going to talk about all this stuff in more detail. But I think to start off the show, what the last week has got me thinking is about truth movements in general, mm-hmm. and how they operate historically, right? So I've been digging a little bit into this, and I had some people sending me some stuff that really got me down this train of thought, because I've noticed all the purity tests going on, and they've been going on for a while, but they're like really, really prevalent right now. If you disagree or don't support Trump, if you whatever, you are villainized, and you are called a shill, a paid shill, an infiltrator, like all these weird things. Mm-hmm. And the research I've been kind of, and research is a strong word, but there's a pattern to truth movements historically. And I think we should go through some of this, because we're in the middle of a fracture right now, and mm-hmm. it's not an uncommon thing. So I don't know if do you want me to just like start going through this, or?
Well, I would just say, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for a fracture happening right now, and there are departing worldviews. One of them seems desperately to be clinging on to the world as we were taught it was throughout our entire lives. And then some people who have kind of let that go and said, wow, we were wrong about a whole bunch of things, and it's maybe time to go in a different direction. And, we kind of, I think, I don't want to say collectively, but most of us kind of made the positive choice to go in a different direction a few years ago, when we took some of the viewpoints that we did about the 2020 election and what that post-election period meant. And I think that we're seeing the results of going one direction or going the other direction, but we can get into some of that in a minute.
Yeah, we should. Well, let's go through it. So, all I did was type in, truth movements. Give me some, like, what are the phases of a truth movement? Mm-hmm. And there's like a decent amount of information available to this. Phase one is always the awakening. People begin noticing contradictions. They like curiosity, skepticism. When it comes to the truth stuff, I mean, that can happen at all various different phases. For me, it happened with the stolen election, right? You think you're red pilled at one point, but then like really getting into what's actually going on. And then the community kind of forms just around asking questions. There's no purity test. Everybody's just like excited to be figuring stuff out. Then the next phase is the research stuff, the research phase. Independent researchers emerge, evidence, documents, all sorts of theories start circulating. The community collaboration is like really at its peak. And then multiple competing explanations exist, and that's okay. That's acceptable. The next phase, the narrative phase, certain explanations gain popularity, influencers and thought leaders emerge, narratives become more structured and widely accepted, the community begins organizing around specific interpretations. And I think these are all three phases that we've like gotten past. Okay. The phase I think we're in is either 4 or 5 here. Number 4 is the gatekeeping phase. Number 5 is the purity spiral. The gatekeeping phase, some members begin defending a specific narrative as the truth. Disagreement becomes controversial. Accusations of infiltration or bad faith appear. Purity tests begin. The key mindset is if you don't believe this, you're part of the problem. And then the purity spiral: loyalty to the narrative becomes more important than evidence. Internal factions form, communities fracture into smaller groups, debate turns into policing beliefs. And the key mindset there is only the real believers belong here. It really feels like that's where we're at. And the final stage is the credibility sorting. But we're not quite there. We can talk about that in a little bit. But it's interesting to see that this is a historical pattern. It's how truth movements actually operate. And I think it's important to recognize that, because if you recognize that your community or group is having a problem, which I think ours is, whether that's the mega group, truth community, however you want to call it, it's a problem, because this can ruin a movement if you let it fester too long and don't at least address it and move beyond it. But what are your thoughts on that so far?
Well, I mean, I kind of always expect things to, and I wouldn't say fracture. I have been talking for a number of years now about sifting. And there's just, people have different priorities and different approaches. And some of those priority sets are going to get you to certain places. Other priority sets are going to get you to different places. And so will the approaches. And I think that some of that is what's happening. The purity tests are a thing that I think I can only speak for myself. I've dealt with, I think you deal with it all the time. But I've dealt with it from both sides of this divide now, which is a strange experience. And there are certain people, no matter what movement you're in, there are certain people whose number one priority is getting followers, having a successful show, and the rest of that. And I have tried to keep myself as far away from that priority set as possible, because I used to play that game in Hollywood and I know how that game operates. And so I don't, like, if I want to achieve success or achieve a following or get my message out or whatever, I want to make sure that I use strategies that aren't those, because that's not how I want to validate my work, right? I want my work to speak for itself, regardless of those social incentives. So I try to stay as far away from that as possible and move out of those environments, which is why I'm not on social media, really, because the attraction to that incentive structure is really strong. Like, you would have the urge to participate. I don't know. I was speaking the general you. Yep. I've certainly had the urge to participate in all of that before. And now I want to see what it is like making that urge zero and how things proceed from there.
Yeah. How is that going for you, by the way? Because I
love it.
I'm starting to get more and more understanding of it. I feel like I participate less and less on Twitter, because literally everything you post, it doesn't matter what it is, you get just hundreds of people who, oh, you're just upset that you've fallen. Have you seen the interaction I had yesterday? Did I show you that?
I don't think so.
The lady who was like, let me find
yes,
it.
you did. Yeah.
The lady who's like, she didn't get fired. She got
promoted
to
the fictional position. Yeah.
It's so stupid. Then I asked the lady, I was like, okay, well, you don't know that for sure. How can you possibly say that she was promoted if the thing hasn't even been officially announced yet? Like, there's no actual details about what this thing of America's is. So you cannot tell me that she got promoted. And she responded, didn't answer my question, but she responded with like, you're so defensive. Why are you so defensive? Like, I think you're too emotional to be objective about this. You need to look in the mirror. You've just fallen so much and you're just bummed that Kristi Noem wasn't fired. I was like, holy shit. And then she ended up deleting everything and whatnot. But that's part of the purity test stuff. And I talked about this in my show today. I think the really important reason that I want to discuss this is because it fits in line with what we try to represent here at Badlands. And that's the open debate and the competing ideas that we have, and being able, like, it's a safe space to be able to air those ideas, even if they're disagreed upon by everybody else. At least we have that, where we don't shun people, even though sometimes that happens, even within our own group and our own community, that will happen. But I still think it's important to recognize that by allowing the competing ideas and whatnot, like, that is how you actually make progress. I think that's how we will end up on the other side of this, while all these other groups purity test themselves to oblivion, because eventually you're going to purity test and fracture enough where you won't even exist anymore. I think the only way to make it through the other side is with the open debate and whatnot. Anyway.
Yeah. The purity test is a weird one, especially because everything is getting funneled back toward the mainstream. You know, the people doing purity tests from what were considered to be the fringes of the right are the ones guiding people back into the pen, which is the strangest thing.
Yeah.
That is just gatekeeping. Bernie Bright and I were having a discussion about this the other night. Like the gatekeepers, like where would you expect to find the gatekeepers? Well, you would expect to find them by the gate. You know what I mean? Like that's where the exit is. You walk toward the exit for years and you keep thinking, oh, the exit's up there. I'm going toward the exit. And so people get to the exit and then people are like, hey guys, welcome to the exit.
Yeah.
Guess we made it out. It's like, wait a second. No, the exit is behind you. I actually have to leave this thing. No, you don't. Just check out what's over here. And we've spent 6 or 7 years doing that now. It's too much. You know, it's not, it doesn't mean anything to be on the fringe if you are still inside the pen and making sure other people don't go outside of it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of that right now. There shouldn't be any conversations that are off limits in a group that calls itself the truth community.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, and it's funny because people think that because I'm most aggressive about that stuff, they think that I want people to believe what I believe. I don't care if people believe what I believe. My entire thing is an approach that I use to make sure that I am thoroughly doing the job of thinking for myself as well as I can, and hope that others will see that they can actually do that too. Because I think thinking for ourselves is like the most positive and empowering thing that we can do, not allowing our decisions about some of the most meaningful things in our lives to be made by celebrities or politicians or the
influencers.
Enforcement of consensus in our own friends and family groups. And yes, of course, influencers.
No, I think that's great. And we should talk about that approach because I've tried to, and not just me, there's other people at Badlands that do this as well. You know, we have this certain worldview of what's happening, and you try to look at everything through that lens, you know, and I think for me anyway, it's like the devolution lens, right? And maybe we don't talk about that enough, but I believe something happened in 2020 that forced Trump to implement some sort of continuity government plan, and everything downstream from that has been, you know, mapping on and working back to that reality. And when you look at this situation like an Iran thing, and I get this question all the time too, is devolution still in place? I don't know for sure, probably, but there's no way to know for sure. But if you understand that Trump is working outside of the traditional norms of things, you're going to look at situations differently, even though like there are things you look at that you disagree with, like the Iran conflict that I got so much shit for saying I don't want to be involved in foreign conflict. I can still recognize that Trump is doing so in a way that is operating outside of traditional norms, just like he did in 2020 with the devolution stuff. But maybe you want to elaborate on that, because I think that would maybe give better insight into how you operate.
Yeah. So when writers are coming up with their ideas, like a George R.R. Martin with Game of Thrones, right? He's creating a story world. He is building a world, an abstract world from nothing, just his mind. And then these characters come alive and they have conflicts, they have emotions, they have all their interactions, et cetera, right? We know that that is entirely fictional. We can talk about that as the world of the story. So it's not this world, it's the story world. And so we can then understand that you can conceive of multiple worlds in your mind at the same time. And actually, like my undergraduate thesis in philosophy was about identity across possible worlds. It's like examining parallel hypotheticals that are different in certain ways. Okay. And so when, from the perspective of devolution, and we can leave aside the details of your devolution theory as you have laid it out, right? And let's just talk about the general. Something else is clearly happening besides what we were shown on television toward the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. Something happened during that transition period. We believe that Donald Trump continued, or the people around Donald Trump or whatever it is, continued to do things in the background throughout that period where we were shown Joe Biden as president. Now, there are a whole range of people who would get on board with the statement that I just made. And one of the groups of people is Q people. Okay. And so that is a certain possible world about what happened. And devolution is a very similar possible world, but it's not the same possible world. And, or at least we didn't take the same approach to that analysis that they did. We just have a different approach to a lot of the same subject matter. And we end up coming down in the same places a lot of the time, but they are not the same. Okay. So from the perspective of what Devolution Power Hour has been with you, with Burning Bright and myself, and then some of the other members of Badlands who have gotten into our theoretical headspace, and then a bunch of the audience members, well, we have taken kind of a different path over these last few years, and our path has different things happening on it. Okay. And different ideas emerge from that path. Like if you and I were both to travel from our different places to New York City, we would end up in the same place. We would have a number of similar experiences on the trip, but we would nonetheless have entirely different trips that taught us different things, you know? And so if we think, yes, something different is definitely going on in the background, these elections are fake and these are not how things are being determined. We are in a post-constitutional world. The Congress is actually illegitimate and not passing laws. Also, the federal government and the federal bureaucracy, they're being scaled down. If we really apply all of those fundamentally different parts of our worldview to our analysis, we're going to end up in different places. And so we have made the decision to proceed through that analysis again and again and again at every single turn throughout these last 5 years. And so we end up in a lot of different places. And that's not because we hate other people or think they're stupid, but we have watched sometimes we have watched both of these paths as they have progressed. And we believe that our worldview actually better explains what's happening than these other competing worldviews do. And that is a totally acceptable thing for us to believe, considering the amount of work we have put into developing this worldview. And I will pause there.
Well, I mean, I think you said it better than I couldn't even conceptualize it. That was brilliant. You said it better than I could. And I don't want to harp on the Q side of things too much, because I feel like we focus on that quite a bit.
Again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about these people, many of whom I really love and respect.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's interesting the way you said that, like the different paths to different ideas, and with the purity test stuff, coming back to that, it's when we're taking our approach and trying to get to, you know, whatever the destination is, and we think we're right and we're going to stay true to our path and whatnot, that people get upset at us for our path. Like, I don't understand how, and maybe people don't conceptualize it themselves, but it's like with every piece of information, every comment you make, people get mad at you for staying on your path. And if you actually look at our path going back to 2021 to now, it hasn't changed a whole lot. Like it hasn't changed at all. We've been on the same trajectory for a long time. And the stuff that we said back then that people liked, and, you know, and this is, you know, maybe I'm being too hard on ourselves, because we still have a great following and everything, but the same, like I could have the same person who was on board with what we were saying before now is like, no, that's not how it is, or whatever. And that's the interesting dynamic to me. It's people veering from that pursuit of the truth and you know, the worldview. I don't know, maybe I said that wrong, maybe I butchered that, but
I think it's strange that we are trying to recapture in reality the American mythology that we were taught about the revolutionary period, and that we think the way to do that is by convincing everyone to trust the man who is president right now, rather than convincing everyone to begin thinking and acting as sovereign people capable of weighing in on how society should be governed.
That's such a good point. Because didn't the revolution, the founders, they like fought against an individual, the king, the crown. You know, go ahead. Sorry.
That I think you're exactly right. You had an interaction with someone a few weeks ago. I think it was you, about elections, and they were like, "Just go out and vote. Nothing can stop what is coming." Wait.
Oh yeah.
What? So if nothing can stop the result of the election, why do I need to go vote? And if nothing can stop the result of the election, then the election is already decided. So what are you saying about the country we are recapturing? Are the people weighing in or not? And from that approach, it's just like, no, there is no weigh-in from the people. There is no buy-in from the people. There's no understanding from the people. I was having a conversation with Brian this morning about the SAVE Act. And gosh, I just lost my train of thought right there.
Before you go into that, I do have a comment, because there is a group of people who think that, like the guy who said it, I don't remember his username, but he's like, I specifically asked him, okay, what am I supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? He's like, just sit back and opine. And then when it comes to the elections, just vote however you want. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because it's, nothing can stop what is coming or whatever. There is that mindset. I would call that an extreme. But there's also people in between who recognize the elections are fraudulent and stolen, but do think, there's that we should participate and vote. And I understand that line of thought too. I think some of our mindset, or a lot of people in Badlands mindset, takes the other end of the extreme. How do I phrase this? And this is a topic that I think we should be discussing from all sides. Like, whatever you believe, we should be having this discussion, because it's only going to get more contentious as the midterms get closer, and it's only going to get more emotional for people too. This is I just can't wait for it. It's going to be the same people who are like, Badlands are irrelevant, they're fallen so far, they're destroyed. They're going to be the ones that are like, well, Badlands also cost us the elections, because there's people there that don't think you should vote or whatever. But this is a debate to be had, and until we get our election integrity, is voting, does it matter? Like, it's a real honest question.
What does it say about the competing worldview that the response to this issue is totally incoherent, and that no explanation has ever been forthcoming?
Which explanation is that? Like, what do you mean?
Or why people should vote in fake elections?
Yeah,
there's no explanation for that.
The one I hear
it's dangerous, or we're going to supply them with evidence for. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's multiple explanations. There's the one that's like, well, if you vote, you can at least, that's more evidence that can be used against them later because they stole it. And I mean, that's not very strong.
After 8 years of fake elections, we can probably let that one go.
Yeah, we just need like one more election cycle, and we got them. We got enough evidence then to prosecute.
There are people really saying that.
Yeah, but then the other one is like, okay, well, what if you can, it's almost like the argument of Scott Adams even used it on his deathbed. He's like, I went my whole life not being a Catholic, but I'm going to proclaim my Pascal's wager. There you go. My faith in Jesus, because if at the end of the day it does exist, I'd rather be wrong in that direction than wrong the other direction and go to hell.
Yeah, I mean, that's not exactly how it works. You can't just announce on the internet that you believe something.
I agree. But that's like kind of the mindset of people. It's like, well, Pascal's vote, I'm going to at least, cast my vote just in case, because I don't want to be the guy that's blamed for costing us the midterms. And I think that's a lot of it too, is the fears. They want to make sure that they're not the one that's blamed in the fake election thing, which is a stigma that I don't think should exist.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this till I was blue in the face on my podcast throughout 2024. In fact, we talked about it at GART in Irvine of that year, and I don't think anything from then has changed. I cannot believe we are still talking about this in 2026. I really cannot believe it. There is no solution that's going to come until people understand what the problem is. And people are like, well, until you have a solution, you can't tell us it's a problem. What? The problem is there, whether or not we are prepared to solve it. And the entire point, if the American experiment means anything, is that we inform our fellow Americans doing what's right and honest and truthful and inform them. And then together, the people conceive a solution. And the solution might just be all of us saying, hey, those elections are fake. Why don't we just cancel those until we figure out a solution?
Yeah.
What is wrong? What is wrong with that solution right now? Like, I don't know why we would want to have fake elections and confer legitimate power, I guess, onto another illegitimate government. Do we know enough about any of these candidates to want to see them governing, ruling us? No. Why would we do that? And the truth is that we can just not do it. And I don't think that anybody realizes that's an option. I don't know how, but
yeah, well, it's really the fear that has been instilled in people of,
right.
If you don't participate in fraudulent elections, then the Democrats are going to win. It's still that that narrative that exists out there that everybody perpetuates, and it's a fear. It comes down to a fear. Like I said before, I don't think people want to be the ones that are blamed for AOC getting another 4 years in office or whatever. She's 6 years. You know what I mean?
I guess. I mean, honestly, what difference does it make? Again, that's like not applying the uniparty principle.
Yeah.
Do you believe there's a uniparty or not? And if you don't believe there's a uniparty, all good. Like, we're not going to get on the same page about that. That's fine. But if you do believe there's a uniparty and you're not willing to apply that knowledge to the conversation, well, then we're at an impasse. You know what I mean? If there is a uniparty, if the Republican Party and Democrat Party, which are both corporations, by the way, are corporations who decide their own candidates, people cheering about primaries on Tuesday. If those two things are working together to run the government on behalf of the global entity that occupies our federal city, then they are just the global entity's mouthpieces to us to make us believe that we have chosen what they are doing. And if they are working together on that, it certainly doesn't matter whether a person with a D next to his name or a person with an R next to his name is the one telling us to be happy with what we're getting, because it's the best he could possibly give us. And so, like, if you're not willing to apply the understanding of the uniparty to our elections, well, what are we doing? Like, that is incoherent. Okay. Yeah. The fact that elections aren't real and that that there's a uniparty, but you still want to make sure everyone participates in revalidating that system. Well, I don't know who you think you're helping by doing that.
Yeah, it's the fear thing, man. I'm telling you. But the uniparty thing, it's weird that people even talk about it at all, when it's very rare that that mindset is applied at all, like anywhere.
Yeah,
everything is designed based on the two-party system. The discussions are based around the two-party system. The news is based around the two-party system. Everything. We can't seem to break away from it, even no matter how much we talk about the uniparty.
Well, that's because we continue to allow our thought, our conversation, our activity online to be downstream from that same mainstream media. The suppliers of information, as we kind of went through quickly last week, talking about the Brian Kilmeade video clip from Fox News. He was very informed and very confident first thing in the morning about something that happened 10,000 miles away. And you know that all of the information, military industrial complex, global intelligence agencies, and transnational corporations, all of that supplies the information to the mainstream media. They don't have journalists out there figuring out the truth and then telling it to you honestly. And we should let that idea go. That's not what journalism is. Okay. We got tricked into believing that. And so that information goes out on the mainstream media, and we all say, okay, well, we get NBC and CBS and ABC and Fox. That's the mainstream media. And I guess CNN is mainstream media and MSNBC is mainstream media. But Fox, honestly, they're just contesting all the rest of that mainstream media. Like, hey, no, they're not. And then Twitter is the mainstream media. and it is algorithmically manipulated to present the same story that is being presented on cable news. And AI is the mainstream media. And so we think that we've gotten out of the bubble just by turning off the screen on the wall that has the cable news on, but we haven't gotten outside that bubble at all. It's just all that bubble, and until we try to move out of that, like, we're going to get what the system gives us. And by the way, a lot of people should really reckon and wrestle with whether or not they just like the system. Okay. It's like constant signaling online that everybody's the most rebellious person. A lot of people just want things to go back to the way they were before. And I totally understand that, because life seemed easier back then. All right. I get it, but that's not coming back. And we can see through it now. Like, even if nothing had changed, our perspective has, and it's not going to allow us to see things like that anymore.
Yeah. There's no going back once you take that red pill. There's no going back into the matrix. Yeah, man, we haven't even gotten to our sponsors yet. There's so much I want to talk about. Wow. This has been a great start, though. Is there anything else you want to flesh out with that discussion before we?
I mean, we could talk about that for 10 episodes in a row. So
I know.
Yeah,
whatever. I know. I agree. Well, let's do this real quick. Let's get a quick word from our sponsors, and then we can start with the Kristi Noem thing, even though we kind of touched on it already, and then some Iran stuff. We have a bunch of other stories. But first up, we have frequency apps. Every day, people are fighting the same battles, cravings that hit out of nowhere, stress that derails good intentions, habits that feel impossible to break. While the world pushes quick fixes, injections, and synthetic shortcuts, most people are just looking for support that fits their lifestyle, without needles, without drugs, without side effects they never asked for. That's why Frequency Apps developed the GLP Alternative Patch, a natural frequency-based wellness patch made right here in the USA, inspired by the body's own GLP-1 pathway. Delivers natural, frequency-driven support for people who want balance, clarity, and control in their daily routine. Peel it, apply it, and forget it. It works quietly in the background while you live your day at work, at home, and in the moments where cravings usually win. No injections, no complicated protocols, no side effects. Each patch uses frequency-based technology to support the body's energetic balance. Go to Badlands. Let me find the website here. frequencyapps.com today, and you can get 20% off. Sorry, $20 off the new GLP alternative patch with code FREEDOM. Frequencyapps.com today. Promo code FREEDOM. Subscriptions are also available, saving up to 20% for ongoing support. Frequencyapps.com, code FREEDOM for $20 off. Sorry about that. I got sidetracked with my own reading and lost my spot. Oops. We also have another sponsor. This product sucks, though. The sponsor sucks. Don't get it. But do get it because he's family, I guess. That's Bernie Bright with his book. And this is the script that was given to me. I may or may not actually believe the script I'm about to read. Just want to put that out there. The filthy savages of Badlands Media helped make the launch of Bernie Bright Publishing a scrumtulescent success in 2025. And now we're back with all the rights to the original IP due to your support. Following the limited edition leather-bound hardcover, Saving Soul, the first book in the Swordpunk trilogy, is now available in digital and audio formats. The audiobook was produced in partnership with Sound Booth Theater. This isn't some AI read aloud crap. It's a full-on audio theater production featuring a cast of professional actors, original music, and high-end studio polish. I think it represents the best version for the Swordpunk aesthetic in the best package for this audience, bringing the story of Akio Prince and his war against the deep state to life in vivid detail. So if you're into cyberpunk ninjas, epic fight scenes, 80s action, pulp, and criminal conspiracies, pick up your audio copy of Saving Soul today. Head over to badlandsmedia.tv/swordpunk to listen to a free sample and download the full audio production for just $25. And remember, we're in a war of stories, and we have the better writers. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice job, Bernie Bright.
Yeah. I can't believe he threw the word scrumptious in there. Of course he would.
Is that a word?
I don't know. It was in the ad read. And scrumptious. It must be. He's a writer, man. He doesn't get words wrong. Anyway, yeah, let's talk real quick about Kristi Noem's firing. Trump's True Social post the other day. Or yes, was that yesterday? That was yesterday.
Can I back you up before can we start a little earlier in the story? Because I think the Kristi Noem thing is actually connected to the SAVE Act in an interesting way. So
Yeah, I do too. Well, how far
good.
back do you
Okay.
how far back do you want to go?
To Trump's on what was it, Wednesday night about Paxton and Cornyn. Is that where you were going?
No, I was going to go back to for her hearing with Kennedy first.
Oh,
I think that
okay.
was.
Let's go back there. Yeah.
Was that Tuesday?
That was Tuesday.
Did you listen to that clip about the $220 million? Because that's the story they're telling us, is that that's the reason she got fired, is because she lied, essentially.
Yeah.
No, here, let me play this Fox News. Speaking of Fox News, let me play this clip from Bill McGowan or whatever. Don't know if it's true, but he's relaying a conversation he had with Senator Kennedy, saying that Trump was really mad at Kristi Noem. Again, don't know if it's true. I personally think she sucked at her job and didn't care that she got fired, but that's irrelevant, I know.
Martha, had been brewing for a couple months. It started in Minneapolis with all of the bad headlines that were coming out there every day. It escalated when Secretary Noem went on TV and called Alex Preddy and Renee Good domestic terrorists. It escalated further when Tom Homan was brought in to essentially be the shot caller there, and Noem and Greg Bovino were essentially sidelined. But then it hit a snowball effect this week with her testimony here on the Hill. And we just got some clarity as to what happened with Senator John Kennedy and Noem and the White House earlier this week. Senator Kennedy just gaggled with reporters here at the Hill a short time ago, and he gave us a bigger picture look at this. So he said ahead of that hearing, he had heard about this $200 million ad buy that DHS and Secretary Noem did. Of course, we've seen the ads where she's on horseback and she's featured heavily. There were some allegations that maybe there was some cronyism in those contracts. So Senator Kennedy said that he was offended by the size and scope of that contract. So he called up the White House and he said, "We've got Noem on the Hill tomorrow. I would like to press her under oath and ask her about this contract." And he said the White House essentially didn't oppose it, said go ahead. So then we see that hearing on Tuesday where he pressed her about the contract directly, and he asked her repeatedly, did President Trump personally approve of this contract to spend $200 million on this ad contract? And Kristi Noem replied under oath that yes, he did. Well, President Trump is now saying that that is not true. And just a short time ago, Senator Kennedy gave us a quote. He says President Trump called him after that hearing, after he saw Noem's testimony, and that President Trump was, quote, mad as a murder hornet, and said that he never approved that contract and didn't even know about it. I'm going to read a quote that Senator Kennedy just told us a short time ago, how he interpreted her testimony. He said, quote, I heard the secretary say that she went to the president and said, I propose to spend $250 million on TV ads in which I am the star. And the president thought that was a swell idea. That's what I heard the secretary say. Her version of the truth and the president's version of the truth are decidedly different. So, Martha, it sounds like, everything started with Minnesota, with Minneapolis, with all the bad headlines, that kind of planted the seeds. And then everything really escalated this week in terms of her testimony here on the Hill. What she said under oath and what President Trump is now saying are two entirely different things. And what Senator Kennedy is saying, what President Trump is saying, is that no, he didn't know about that contract, nor.
So that's the reasoning. But I know you probably wanted to go back even further.
No, that's good. I thought you were going to do the post yesterday from Trump just announcing it.
Yeah, no, not yet. This is the reason. What we're told. This happened last week. This hearing, and it was ridiculous.
Happen? I thought it just happened this week. It happened.
Maybe it did. It
Okay.
feels like a year ago. I don't even know. But yeah, I think it's ridiculous. We spend $1.3 billion in advertising. Our government, isn't that retarded?
Yes, it is. And I don't remember the number, but in the COVID relief packages that they were passing in 2020, they put out, public, I forget what they called it. I think it was like public communications or something.
Like health announcements or something.
Yes. Yeah. And so they sent money around to all the states in the relief package. And then California, for instance, how does California do public messaging? Well, they hire celebrity influencers to tell everybody what to think. And so American taxpayer dollars were being sent printed by the federal government and then funneled through the federal government to the states, which would then send that money to Instagram influencers like Kristi Noem and famous celebrity actors to then propagandize the people of the country. So the messaging thing has been a big one for a while. $220 million. I was talking about this with Brian. And so for people who watched Badlands Daily on Friday, some of this is going to sound repetitive, but that's like a Hollywood production budget for a blockbuster movie for most of the 2000s. $100 million for the movie, 100 more for after and for marketing and for the rest of it. $220 million in the age of AI and like digital cameras and internet marketing and posting. $220 million for that. I mean, obviously it doesn't cost that. So the question is, of course, where did the rest of the money go? That's clearly fraud and malfeasance, or at least total neglect. Now, if any of that is real, then obviously that's a huge error for a department secretary to allow that to go. And I mean, she was the starring role of it. So, but again, back in 2024, and this is just another one of the things that my analysis has to deal with, my approach has to deal with, and a lot of people got upset about, but these are television characters. Kristi Noem didn't used to look like this. She didn't used to talk like this. I'm not saying it's a different person, although the character has been clearly adjusted over the last few years. She has spent her time over the last, 14 months going around, putting on different costumes of different like army and police units and
with the high-end jewelry as well.
Exactly. And going around and filming social media content about how she's kicking ass and getting all the immigrants out of here. And so, now we are dealing with the fallout that she spent too much money on a commercial and Donald Trump had no idea. And now he's found out about it and he's going to be the president who is against fraud. And so he's kicking Kristi Noem out, but also promoting her. What?
The whole fraud thing is getting a little ridiculous to me too. I mean, I know we're just waiting. Doge is in all these agencies. That's what we've been told, and we're just waiting for whatever magic trigger to be pulled so that all the fraud stops. But our spending this year is the highest it's ever been, $7 trillion in expenses as a country. Wow. Our deficit is down 42 billion to what it was. No, our 2025 deficit was down $42 billion than what it was for Biden. But this year's deficit is projected to be higher. Next year, like our deficit is almost $2 trillion in a single year. That's even including some of the tariff stuff and whatnot. Like our spending is out of control and we haven't seen really any movement from Doge. We're told we have, but it's not actualizing. Like we're not getting actual less spending on anything. And I find that to be retarded.
Yeah. I don't expect that we're going to get less spending. I mean, the money's not going to get paid back.
Yeah.
$42 trillion or whatever we're up to.
We're going to cross 40 trillion September, probably.
There you go. So are we paying back 40 trillion fiat American dollars? Don't think so. No. Part of the Great Reset plan is to crash the currency and then switch it over. Is that still happening? Hey, maybe. Does the enemy plan seem to still be marching forward? Well, yes, it does. Now, is that going to be rerouted? We can hope so. I'm certainly optimistic about that. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, and people are still like, you're dooming by saying what's actually happening right now. You're supposed to say a better version of what's happening right now.
It is weird to me, though, that like the debt is not talked about more concerned. Like people aren't as concerned as I feel like they should be about the debt. Like that's a huge thing. Like if your household debt was, we're about negative $2,000, maybe $20,000 every month. That's unsustainable. What happens when you run out of money? We're already out of that money because we're 40 trillion. But nobody really cares. It's like, yeah, we're fine, business as usual. It's just debt. And I don't know. I feel like that's probably a bigger deal than we realize. At some point, the rubber has to meet the road on that, I would think, in order for us to move out of that system. Like, are we ever going to get to that, moment in time?
Hard to say.
Anyway, that's a weird tangent. We don't need to go down that road.
Well, I would just suggest that Trump talks about how much investment he's bringing in, money from tariffs and the rest of it. If we go down that road, you could see that debt narratively resolved really quickly, but it wouldn't be as a result of us actually like earning it all back. So
yeah, narratively, even though like that's a tall order, $40 trillion. Like our interest rate now is $1 trillion. We have to get the tariff trade deficit to a surplus of more than $1 trillion just to cover the interest. That ain't happening.
Well, I guess we'll find out. They're going to explain it one way or another. Like, so this is this is a perfect example of the sort of approach I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
We know that event is down the road somewhere.
Yeah.
And we know that there's no way they're going to pay back $40 trillion. And we know that it's a fiat currency and the rest of it.
Yeah.
So like analysis that only deals with the mainstream story that we get from mainstream financial publications, the mainstream media, and the rest of it, the very normie political analysis that doesn't account for where we actually are and where we're actually going and figures out something that actually makes sense as a process to get there. Well, what are we going to do with that analysis? What's the point of engaging that stuff at this late stage, considering the amount of time that we have invested in exploring these things? Is it a smart place to put our resources in analyzing constantly the story being told to us by the mainstream media? I personally don't think that is a valuable use of time and energy. And like to be the people who have tracked what may well be a cutting edge approach to what's happening right now, to still then be devoting our time to make sure that we are connecting with the mainstream story, that seems less valuable to me all the time.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's one of the more fascinating things though, because there's so many different beliefs about how Trump is going to resolve that issue in particular, like from the Nassar Jassara thing to Trump is just going to say that's gone. And that's my personal favorite. It's like, yeah, we're just going to go back to zero, guys. We're just going to start over. And I kind of hope that happens, but it's something that like that, whatever that is going to be a probably more monumental than most of the issues, I would say, in terms of like public response and how they react to that, because it's the finance stuff. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's, ignoring it though, also like you can operate, I think, understanding all the things, because this is how I feel like I do it. I understand it's down the road. I understand the framework we operate in, but like that story, even the mainstream story of it getting as little attention as it does, it's like the elephant in the room that nobody wants to look at.
Yeah. Well, it's a very difficult problem, which everyone has ignored throughout our lives. So it seems easier to continue ignoring it. Also, again, I'm not saying we shouldn't engage that stuff, but we shouldn't engage it as though that is the actual state of play. We can totally engage it because there are ample lessons to be learned there. And I think that they are valuable lessons. And I'm totally a fan of people who produce deep research on a given subject, because I think the research is important. But that doesn't mean that like the way we should interact with the situation is on that level. I think that we have to move levels away, levels beyond, however you want to think of it. I don't think that we are interfacing with it properly to just treat it the way the mainstream conversation treats it.
Oh yeah, totally. I totally get that.
Yeah.
We should come back to the Kristi Noem thing, and you were going to talk about the SAVE Act. The PAC
So Trump, he put out he weighed in on the Texas primary. This is that post. He said the Republican primary race for the United States Senate in the great state of Texas, a state I love and won 3 times in record numbers, the highest vote ever recorded by far, cannot, for the good of the party and our country itself, be allowed to go on any longer. It must stop now. We have an easy to beat radical left opponent, and we have to totally focus on putting him away quickly and decisively. Both John and Ken ran great races, but not good enough. Now this one must be perfect. My endorsements with the Republican Party have been virtually insurmountable. It's such an honor to realize and say that almost everyone I endorse wins, and wins by a lot, especially in Texas. I will be making my endorsement soon and will be asking the candidate that I don't endorse to immediately drop out of the race. Is that fair? We must win in November. Thank you for attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. there are things to discuss in each one of these sentences. We don't have to get to all of them, but if elections are fake, then Donald Trump, his endorsement's always winning, even though he often endorses people that aren't MAGA, means that he has some idea of what the results of those elections are going to be before they happen.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to note here. Okay. Primaries are faker than general elections. Primaries are literally a corporation deciding internally who to make a public communications face of their corporation to appeal to a targeted demographic in a specific congressional district. Okay. That's what a congressional race is. And it's that at the state level when it comes to John Cornyn and Ken Paxton. So that part's important. A president saying, because my endorsement dictates who's going to win, means that I should just endorse and then we can call off the primary. Well, hey, people that love voting, where is your democratic process in the Republican primary? That's Donald Trump suggesting we just do away with that. Okay. And again,
that's a great point.
I'm the guy who thinks that we should cancel elections, something that Trump discusses. Trump is literally canceling an election on Truth Social, and people are just ignoring that fact and focusing on whether or not they like Ken Paxton. Okay. So what are we supposed to do with that?
That's, I didn't even think of that. I somehow missed this post. I did not see this post the other day. So that's number one.
How come nobody on Twitter is talking about this? Gosh.
That's a good question. I'm going to talk about this after the show. I'm going to post that. But that's brilliant. So Trump is again saying, though, that our elections don't matter.
Yeah, of course. He says it all the time.
But people don't take his word
I'm a traitor for saying, hey, guys, they're fake.
This though might be the most direct he's ever like actually stopped an election. I can't believe it. I'm like kind of shocked right now. Whoever I endorse, the other person should just stop. Like, let's not do it.
It must stop now so that we can beat the Democrat.
Yeah, how are people not upset about
anybody imagine that Trump really means this in a real world?
He's got to be doing it to get a reaction of people.
Well, I think that he's doing it because it orchestrated a pretty incredible and interesting situation. And I think that we can kind of go through that with this, the Kristi Noem thing, and then the SAVE Act.
Didn't all of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm remembering something. Back when Biden dropped out and Kamala was given the go ahead, didn't everybody on the conservative side be like, well, where's the democratic process to replace?
Yeah.
But now nobody's saying that about this. I haven't seen a single person comment about that in that way. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm stealing it. You didn't trademark it, so I'm taking it and posting it.
You can have it. So let's move on from there. There was an interesting, gosh, I hope I have this still highlighted.
Did you see the Ken Paxton thing though, where he was like, if Cornyn,
I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah. Super important. Okay, so this article is from NBC. This is yesterday. So Trump considers firing DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, sources say. And so this talks about how some of this is about DHS funding. And you come down to the end here. And so the Democrats are saying, no, you can't fund DHS until you give us all our concessions. And you and I have discussed this on a couple of shows.
Yep.
DHS shouldn't exist. We've gone through the argument before about why we don't need them to handle immigration. Immigration can still be handled without DHS. DHS is an embedding of the global regime security state within the United States of America post 9/11. They handle immigration terribly. They handle disaster relief terribly. They handle election security terribly. They handle censorship terribly, right? So we don't need DHS. So this is all about DHS funding. Here is Tim Kaine, Hillary Clinton's VP nominee back in 2016. He's talking about Kristi Noem here. He said, if she were to be let go and the administration were to put up somebody who folks felt was competent, yes, that could affect the dynamic. But the issue is we're still looking for reforms, goodwill and like, we'll make a promise and don't worry, we'll get better. We don't trust that now. So they're talking about how DHS funding is contingent on replacing the DHS secretary who wanted a different DHS secretary.
Yeah, that's what they said back in the, remember the demand list that Schumer and Jeffries? One of the things at the very end of that was her resignation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So they want Kristi Noem out for whatever reason they want her out, or they're at least making us believe that they want her out. Okay. And I only say that because, and people think that when I say stuff like that, they're like, well, you just think everything's fake. Like that's it. I think there's like a short circuit in their brain. Mm-hmm. No, I'm saying I don't know if it's one way or the other way. And therefore I have to deal with both ways, right? Like that's epistemic humility that they think I'm just being arrogant and telling them like, no, it's not that. That's fake. No, I'm saying I don't know which one it is. So I deal with both.
Stop saying it's fake, dude.
I know. It's terrible. So the Ken Paxton post, let me pull this up.
Yep.
Unless you have it right there.
No, I don't.
Okay. 1 second here.
Actually, I might.
No, we're good. So this is Paxton's post. The Save America Act is the most important bill the U.S. Senate could ever pass, and I'm committed to helping President Trump get it done. I would consider dropping out of this race if Senate leadership agrees to lift the filibuster and passes the Save America Act. John Cornyn is a coward who has refused to support abolishing the filibuster to pass this bill. Now, fake news reporters and the establishment are trying to destroy me with misinformation. The truth is clear. No one has been more loyal to Donald Trump than me. Fighting the stolen 2020 election, being in Mar-a-Lago when he announced his 2024 campaign, and standing with him in New York in the face of lawfare. For the good of our country and the good of passing President Trump's agenda, I'm determined to help him get this done. And so he said that in the afternoon yesterday before some of these other pieces kind of fell in line. Now, Mark Wayne Mullen, who replaced Kristi Noem, or is in the process of replacing Kristi Noem as DHS secretary, he's a big SAVE Act guy with based Mike Lee. And you got to remember, this is based Chip Roy's bill that they came out and announced a few years ago. And this does not fix elections. And Brian and I had a discussion about whether there was some reason to do this in stepwise fashion. I don't believe that there is. I believe this is only a distraction from actual election reform, but I'm not.
Because it's a fair assessment. Yeah.
Yeah. And other people can make their arguments. And hey, make your arguments. All right. But don't get mad that someone doesn't buy your arguments. We've had these discussions for 5 years now. Okay. Yeah. And I still have not seen any good arguments.
When it comes to that, the response that I see a lot is people think it's dooming to, okay, can you not at least not acknowledge the little wins, Chris? Like, isn't it better than nothing to get this? That's the response you get. It's like, man, you just complain about everything. It's because when I said the same thing about the Save America Act a month ago, I was met with all that stuff. I was like, yeah, this is great, but here's the laundry list of other reasons our elections are still faking bullshit, and this doesn't address any of that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to sit here and cheer for it, because Trump also said we don't even need the Save America Act to implement voter ID because he can do it on his own or whatever. Like, the whole thing is so stupid. Yeah, people are so hung up on it's a weird psyop that we're hung up on, that we need this and this fixes all of our problems when it really doesn't. Yet we can be okay with that because at least it's better than not fixing all of our problems at all. It's so dumb. I don't know.
So if Trump says that we don't actually need the Save America Act, but he also says we should pass it, and all of conservative media, all the influencers and everybody say passing the Save America Act is the most important thing that could ever happen, despite Trump saying that it's not important at all, who trusts Trump more? Me for agreeing with my own analysis and him saying that we don't need it, or him saying, okay, go ahead and pass it, with all of Con Inc. telling me it's the most important thing that ever happened?
Well, Trump also said it.
I would suggest that I'm siding with Trump and they're siding with Con Inc.
with the psyop, yeah. And it's interesting though, because Trump does continue to post that, but it's the same thing. It's the same argument if you flip it with the vaccine stuff. And I love going back to this because it's one of the best psyops. And we feel like, the truth community, we won that one because Trump said something like originally he said, take the farm, these other options besides the vaccine. But then ever since then, it's been vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. Well, we listened to him when he said this, and we understand why he's doing it this way, though. But that is like a complete, you could do the same exact thing with this scenario, and people have it totally inverted. They're totally wrong about it. But that one, we were right,
The other funny thing, I was thinking this when you were talking about how they were like, why don't you just take the wins? It's really funny that those comments are always from people who for sure talked about participation trophies for the last 10 years when it came to how our society is being pussified and social justice warriors and the woke. Hey, guys, taking every win because the television says it's good for you and it's really only good for the Republican establishment, you're asking for participation trophies and you're mad that we're not giving them to you. So come on, let's all just grow up.
That's asking a lot, but
I know.
I agree.
So there's still a couple more steps of this.
Yes, I agree. I like we both came to the same conclusion. You're getting into the Mark Wayne Mullen thing?
Well, yes, we can. Or we could go to Trump's Truth Social post from yesterday, where in addition to the normal stuff that he posts again and again about the SAVE Act,
he adds
on some transformer bullshit. And why does he do that? That's the question. Go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
I'll pull it up. You keep going.
Okay. So within the last few weeks, the Uniparty left, I was researching some of this yesterday. They've started saying that the Save America Act is discriminatory against trannies because them having to show ID when they go to vote, that official government ID is not going to match their personal identification of who they are. And so that discriminates against them and makes them not want to go vote. And so they've been running with that now for a couple of weeks. And then Trump drops into this Save America thing, no men and women's sports and no transgender mutilation surgery for children. Well, those don't have anything whatsoever to do with voting, except what do? They make it an awful lot harder for Democrats to get publicly on board with it.
That's interesting.
And so if you then went and took a Republican senator out of the Senate and you still wanted to pass the SAVE Act without blowing up the filibuster at some point down the road, well, now Trump's making that really, really hard to do.
I didn't think of it that way, and that's brilliant. Did you see the freak out over this part at the end from Thomas Massey and other people? Like no men's and women's sports, and then originally he said no transgender mutilation surgery for children without the express written approval of their parents. Mm-hmm. And then the later post, he switched it to take out the parents part.
Yeah.
And people lost their mind over this. Thomas Massey, he reversed the order
which post to trust Trump about.
I don't know. Oh, people are so retarded, but I think that's brilliant to think of it as a way to it makes it impossible for Democrats to get on board because of what they've done with their base. But then I think another way he's rug pulled this is with the Noam removal itself. Mm-hmm. Because by getting rid of Noam, because she wasn't very good at her job, and she was fired, it wasn't a lateral move. The DHS was a cabinet level position. The special envoy to whatever the Americas thing is not a cabinet level position. It's got less funding. It's got a smaller budget generally. It's got less people, less responsibilities, all those things. Okay. You can say she's saving the world all you want. She was fired, in my opinion. And I'm making that point again just because I know how upset people get when you say that and when they want to protect the TV characters, as you would say. Mm-hmm. But the replacement, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say we can talk about the replacement. That's what I was going to do. And I was just going to say, and I think DHS secretary is actually a step down from senator.
Yeah, I would agree too.
Especially if you're in it for the long haul, like Mark Wayne Mullen would have been.
Yeah. So Mark Wayne Mullen, he's a senator on our vote for the SAVE Act, who gets sucked in over to the DHS now if he gets approved, and that's who knows. He may not even get approved. If I were the Democrats, you've already stalled the vote on the DHS funding bill. You're not going to approve this guy. You're going to keep it all like hung in the balance as long as you can. Just whatever. But now would be an interesting time to see the Save America Act actually brought to the floor, because I think, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure if they time it right, when Mullins comes over March 31st, and the governor of, what state is he from? Missouri? Mississippi?
From Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. The governor of Oklahoma is the one who replaces him, and he has, I think, within 30 days, he has to find the replacement. There's a potential gap there where the Republicans are down a vote for the Save America Act, and they could have the vote on the floor and not get it passed, and the whole thing has been rug pulled because he got placed into this position. And one thing of note, I do think it's interesting that whoever the governor chooses to be the senator is not allowed to run for the seat when the special election comes out, which I think is cool.
And then check this out, actually. Well, I will just mention this. The Hill, February 11th of this year, Trump slams Rhino Stitt over National Governors Association dinner. So that is the governor who is going to replace Markwayne Mullin, and Trump last month called him a rhino. So here's Mark. Well, go ahead.
No, I think that's interesting. Watch him put in like some non-Save America Act vote.
Yeah.
That'd be even better, like to not even have it come to the floor, is just somebody in there who's not going to vote for it, and Trump just votes for the fucking thing.
Yes. I mean, it's all orchestrated, and we can talk about the discombobulator when we get to Iran. But yes, this stuff is orchestrated for reasons that aren't what we're being shown on television. Check this out. I would suggest to people that Markwayne Mullin not only had no idea he was going to be announced as DHS secretary, he also does not want the job. And that is just me. This is my impression.
Yep.
I cannot tell you that is how reality is. It is only my impression.
Secretary? No, the president, I still got to communicate, so we'll talk about it moving forward. But I appreciate it, guys. The president I've already talked. Obviously, the statement went out, but we need to talk with the president, and we're going to get on the same page and do what we need to do.
Do you want to change at DHS? When did you make changes at DHS?
When did you find out, sir? A little bit before you guys did.
Do you want the job? Any changes?
Senator, did you expect this?
Guys, I'll talk to y'all before.
Do you want the job?
So funny.
He wants the job, Senator, and he's just walking away.
I'm imagining in my head, like Trump calls him. It's like, hey, Mark Wayne or whatever. I wonder if anybody actually calls him Mark Wayne. But hey, you're going to be the new DHS secretary. And he's like, well, but I don't want it. It's like, we just hit publish on the post, so it's too late. So we'll see in a little bit.
Hey, buddy, you're awfully leveraged here, and you're going to do what we tell you.
Yeah, that's too. But my scenario is just a little more entertaining, I think.
Definitely funnier, yes.
But yeah, this whole thing's much more fascinating. I'm trying to find who candidates are, or who's being talked about to replace him.
So after that change was made at DHS, which is supposed to affect DHS funding, and then Markwayne Mullin getting pulled out of the Senate is supposed to might affect the passage of the SAVE Act. Then Ken Paxton is like, I'm not dropping out no matter what. And also John Cornyn is out there tweeting that he's one of the SAVE Act's biggest supporters. So, hey guys, who are supporting Ken Paxton, like, we have to have Ken Paxton there, and we also have to have the SAVE Act. It's like, are you sure that your position makes sense? It doesn't seem like it does.
Did you see that Stitt is running for the Senate seat?
Is he really?
They're talking about him being the guy to run. I think we could see a candidate for governor or candidates for governor to decide, you know what, I think I can get President Trump's endorsement or President Trump's help. Lamb said, I'm going to jump out of the governor's race and jump in the Senate race. Trump believes one potential candidate stands out above the rest. I think the race for U.S. Senate, the next U.S. Senator in Oklahoma, is Stitt's to lose.
When is this article published?
Yesterday.
Wow. Okay, so what does that look like? If Stitt wants to be the Oklahoma senator, I mean, is Trump going to name Rhino Kevin Stitt? is he, and I mean, through Stitt himself, is Trump going to execute this? I can't imagine the voters of Oklahoma would like it if the governor named himself senator and they had no governor.
He's not going to name himself senator. He's going to run for the open seat.
I know. But so then what is he saying? He thinks that he should be the Oklahoma senator, but he's going to appoint someone to keep his seat warm for like 7 or 8 months. That's a weird position to be in.
Well, it's even better for Trump because whoever Trump endorses is going to win. And if Stitt runs for it, Trump will probably endorse him after just calling him a rhino. Like, how many times has Trump done that? It's so funny.
Them. Yeah.
It's like he does stuff to get you guys to stop trusting and cheerleading every damn thing that he does.
One would think that at some point people would and I was going to say catch on. This is my personal belief on this. I think that the point of this is that he gives all of the positions so that the public conversation happens and people exercise their principles and get to the right answer, because it is only around the right answer that we can actually unify as Americans. Okay. We can't unify around the Republican Party agenda, and we can't unify around the Democrat Party agenda, and we can't unify around the mainstream normie-dumb way that America is believed to be. You can only unify around the right answer. Okay. And so we can only get there by these conversations happening. And Trump is the great catalyst to truth that allows that to happen.
This article, I'm reading this article about Trump. Trump is like, how often he's gone after Stitt is so funny. We will soon have a governor in Oklahoma who knows how to accurately write a press release to the public, in this case, to state that I invited, not happily, almost all Democratic governors to the governor's dinner at the White House, Trump wrote. Stitt, a wise guy, knew this, but tried to get some cheap publicity by stating otherwise. And then last month, as usual with him, Stitt got it wrong. Trump took credit for Stitt's victory in the governor's race. He was massively behind his opponent in the previous election for governor and called me to ask for help. I endorsed him barely, and he won his race. But he eagerly anticipated the arrival of his successor. Gosh, this is great. I'll see whoever shows up. I cannot wait to see. I hope it goes down that way. It may not, but it would be hilarious if it did.
Yeah. So I would suggest that this is all orchestrated, and it's brilliant and it's working. The last point on the SAVE Act thing, though, is that if Trump is actually submarining the SAVE Act, and that is what I believe he is doing.
I do too, yeah.
Yeah, then we should really understand what that means. And by the way, I think it's a good thing. I think that the passage of the SAVE Act and that everybody gets hoodwinked into believing that our elections are fixed, I think that is nothing but bad for us. And I'm not saying, if that's how it goes, we're still on board. We're still going to work through it and we're still going to plow ahead. I get it. All right. But I don't think that's good. I think that that's us getting the hose again. So it seems like he is making a situation where it is going to be very, very hard for that thing to pass. And certainly it seems without ending the filibuster, which seems like what they've been clinging to. And by the way, I'll just throw it out there. We'll see what the future holds. I have no problems with Ken Paxton whatsoever, but I would expect that Donald Trump is going to keep Cornyn in place, because throughout the era of fake elections, all of the most corrupt and illegitimate members of both bodies have been kept in place. I don't think that that's by accident.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting to think what it looks like for the election if the rhetoric has been built now by everybody, including Trump himself, all of Con Inc., all these Congress people, that in order to fix our elections, in order to save the country, we need to pass the Save America Act. That's the rhetoric. Okay. Trump rug pulls it on purpose. He built it up for a reason. He does that with a lot of things. And then if it doesn't get passed before the midterms, what does that do to people going into the midterms and immediately afterwards? Because how can you think that elections are secure or legitimate without it? Even if you want to operate on that, I think they're still fake and gay with it, but how are people going to operate if it's not passed ahead of time? You know what I mean? They're not going to be able to function. It's like well, none of these election results matter. And guess what, guys? The Save America Act wasn't there prior to the 2020 or 2024 election. Literally nothing has changed since the 2024 election or 2020, whatever. And so how do we justify that result too? Like, again, it's so stupid, but it feels like that's what's going to build. It's going to build to it not passing, going into the midterms, and everybody has had their hopes on this thing passing. And what does that do about the discussion of the what year is it going to be? 2026 midterms.
Yeah.
When that happens.
Yeah. And then this is the other thing I mentioned to Brian this morning. If it does pass and it community, chalking this up as a win. And again, we're going to be doomers because we don't want participation trophies. If everybody is pushing, if all the people who have spent the last 5 years working diligently and faithfully for election integrity settle for this and spend the year supporting this and then applauding it when it passes, and we still have fake elections, which we will, and then the Democrats win in November, who among the election integrity people is going to have the credibility to push that movement forward in the face of continued fake elections that weren't at all fixed by the SAVE Act? And, to be called a doomer for bringing that up is absolutely insane. Like, I think people are missing something important. Okay. That's it. I think people are missing something really, really important. And I like a bunch of the people in the election integrity community. I've talked with them for years. They become, some version of friends of mine. I want them to succeed in their mission. This ain't success.
You should distill that down even further, because I think this is such a good point. If the SAVE Act passes, we have the election, and the election is still stolen, which it would be, because this doesn't actually fix the problem, only, whatever. What does that do for the election integrity movement afterwards? Distill that down one more time.
Well, first of all, participating in elections and then immediately treating the results as real and celebrating the good results, as we did on Wednesday morning, hearing that DJ Dan Crenshaw and Jasmine Crockett are no longer in Congress. Who cares? These are characters. The Congress is illegitimate. We didn't win anything. The elections are fake. Okay.
That was the uniparty, in my opinion. That was the uniparty, like burn cards. Like these people are hated by everybody. We're going to get rid of them and replace them with some uniparty person. The next Dan Crenshaw, who everybody loves right now, but later on, it's going to be the same fucking thing.
Yep. And the people celebrating those were advertising to their entire networks, hey, our elections are real. Look at the results that we are happy about right now. It
worked. Yeah.
And we do that over and over again. We've done it election after election, primary and general, for every year since 2020. And then we wonder why elections aren't getting fixed. Well, it's because no one's demanding them getting fixed. Everybody's just still going along with it. Why would the system proactively change when everybody just accepts the way it is?
I feel like it wouldn't, and it hasn't.
So we go through after everybody cheers on our election results and validates our elections as legitimate and legitimately conferring power to a government. Then we've convinced everybody our elections are legitimate. SAVE Acts happened. We're celebrating our primary wins. These are the candidates. We're going to get fully behind them. We're going to go out and hit the streets. We're going to knock on doors. We're going to donate to the party. We're going to do all those things to say that the elections are real. We're going to go out and vote. We're going to punch our little our choices on the iPad down at the local school cafeteria, attached to a black box, never verify the results ever. And then we're just going to pass our power on to whatever government we're told we chose.
You forgot about the sticker.
Right.
You get a sticker too.
Yeah. Who is going to prosecute the case at that point? After all the election integrity people have told the country elections were a problem, but now we got them fixed.
Such a good freaking point, man.
We just keep like speeding toward these cliffs that can be totally avoided. We don't have to go down these paths at all. Just because the media says this stuff and pushes us in this direction does not mean we actually have to go down this direction. And we don't have to encourage others to go down it either. And that's not dooming. Okay. Accepting fake elections as though they are real elections is surrender. Not surrendering cannot be dooming.
Yeah. Also, to go back again to the COVID analogy, because I feel like that's one of the psyops we, as a community, we did a pretty good job on, right? Nobody wanted to actually inject themselves with poison. Trump, how he operated in that is Operation Warp Speed. You can recognize the same template here with the SAVE Act, like Operation Warp Speed with the SAVE Act. Yeah, let's get this thing. I really want this thing. Let's push this thing, all these things. But it's going to be thwarted. It's to thwart the actual agenda of what they want, of what you just talked about right there.
There are ways to give the Uniparty back all of its power. Its power is based on our collective belief in its validity. And when we spend our year obsessed with elections, what we are doing is reaffirming the validity of the Uniparty construct. And we do it over and over and over again. And we are going to get the same results each and every time.
100%. Totally agree.
By the way, about the COVID thing, because I talked about this with Brian a little bit today. Again, Trump at various points was pro-lockdown, pro-mask, and pro-vaccine. Is it right to trust him when he is saying those, things and then back him up in saying those things? The answer is no, it's not. We should be speaking up for the right thing from our perspective as individual Americans at every possible turn, rather than making up excuses for why it's okay that the wrong thing is being pitched.
Yep. And then you also, in my opinion, need to fight against the freaking purity test for operating that way, because people don't accept when people operate that way, and it's retarded. We should talk Iran stuff a little bit. I mean, we've been going for an hour and a half, which is solid.
Can I bridge this for you, John? I think that I have the perfect.
I love bridges.
Yeah.
Can you sell me one?
I could. It is either Ted Stevens' Alaskan Bridge to Nowhere, or
I prefer. Do you have any New York airport?
Yeah, I have the Brooklyn Bridge that I can sell you as well.
I'll do that one.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably a wise decision, but who knows? Once we get the Russia-Alaska thing going on, might be very valuable bridge property. And in fact, we might find out that Ted Stevens was actually building the bridge to somewhere.
Is that a real, like, there's a bridge that exists that doesn't actually go anywhere? Is that a real thing?
There was
or is
at
that just
least
a story?
a project that was pushed by this old Alaska senator named Ted Stevens. And I'll totally flub the story at this point. This was, 15 years ago.
I'm looking this up right now. The Gravina Island Bridge. The bridge to nowhere. This is a real thing, guys. Maybe I do want this bridge. This one seems more exciting.
Could be.
Commonly referred to as the bridge to nowhere, was a proposed bridge to replace the ferry that currently connects the town of Ketchikan, Alaska, and with Gravina Island, an island that contains the Ketchikan International Airport, as well as 50 residents. The bridge was going to be $398 million for that bridge.
$398 million. Wow.
This is so you're just gonna connect these two things instead of using the boats? Huh. Yeah. I do want that bridge. I'll change my answer. But okay, to this, bridge it for me.
How about this for a headline? Trump advisors work to mitigate a political nightmare on Iran as president fuels messaging chaos. Now, we don't have to go into that article at all, but the headline is absolutely wonderful. Again, I don't think any of this stuff is a nightmare, but it is messaging chaos. And we should be like totally happy to recognize that, because I would suggest messaging chaos is the point. Yeah. What Trump is doing is waging narrative warfare by destroying all of the narratives from the neocons and warmongers that they have used to keep us on the precipice of war with Iran, with Venezuela, with North Korea, with all these countries for decade upon decade upon decade. All of those stories can be removed from the discussion and invalidated by the narrative chaos that Trump is applying now. That is why he's doing it. Okay. So deciding which of his positions you trust and then enforcing that position as the only position anyone can take, well, you're missing the point. The point is the chaos, and he's bringing it all the time.
Yeah. And it's so funny too, because he's got everybody to flip their position that they've had their entire lives. Like, neocons are now against war. Mm-hmm. People who are against war in foreign countries are now neocons. Like, everybody's totally inverted from where they were before because they can't operate through the chaos. I think it was Burning Bread sent the story in our chat. And let me pull this up. Bill Kristol is now against war, even though he's been advocating for wars for like 25 years. Maybe Rubio should stop inventing imminent threats to justify the war his administration started and get to work doing his department's job of helping Americans in the war zone they created. So funny.
Check this out. This is, and I'm just pulling this from CNN because that's who Trump gave the interview to. And also CNN is like my, my thermometer where I, look to see what the weather is on the mainstream media on a given day. Just see
I read them every day on my show. Like that's one of the first places I go to badlandsmedia.tv. Then I go to Just the News and then CNN to see what's going on.
So Trump tells CNN he's not worried whether Iran becomes a democratic state. And it's good for him. He shouldn't be worried about that. But that absolutely crushes neocon Bill Kristol, who you just read. And the neocons, as we said last week, these are Trotskyites trying to spread, quote unquote, democracy all the way around the world with the use of military force so that every country falls under the top-down centralized control system of the global entity. So some of Trump's quotes in this, I think, are rather amazing. Trump expressed confidence in the ease of picking a new leader in Iran, which he said he must be involved in. And again, compared the mission to Venezuela, where the U.S. captured Nicolas Maduro earlier this year and put his deputy in power. Quote, "It's going to work very easily. It's going to work like it did in Venezuela. We have a wonderful leader there. She's doing a fantastic job, and it's going to work like in Venezuela." He went on to say he was open to having a religious leader in Iran. Well, I may be, yeah. I mean, it depends on who the person is. I don't mind religious leaders. I deal with a lot of religious leaders, and they are fantastic. Okay, well, that's a big departure from our global democracy. And then whether it needs to be a democratic state, he said, no, I'm saying there has to be a leader that's going to be fair and just, do a great job, treat the United States and Israel well, and treat the other countries in the Middle East. They're all our partners.
I do think it's funny that he, not only is he canceling primary elections in the United States, but he is actively selecting leaders of other countries. Fuck those people. I'll decide who it is.
There was an article in the New York Times, and I forgot to grab it when I was grabbing the links, but I really do want to. I think I even dropped it in the Badlands chat yesterday, but I don't think anyone wrote back.
Well, while you're doing that, the irony of what Trump said in that interview takes away, like totally disarms everybody who's like, this is for Iran's freedom. This is all about Iran's freedom. And Trump's like, well, yeah, I'll pick who it is.
Yeah.
I'll be the one to decide that.
Yep.
It's up to me. So there goes everybody who's saying this is for Iran and their freedom. That's retarded. So it's not, Trump's telling you that's not what it's about.
John, you're making too much sense. You can get in trouble for that sort of.
I'm just dooming, man. Just doing my
By the
thing.
way, I think that it's worth sharing this right here just quickly. This is Elon Musk from December 13th, 2024, with the Ayatollah on some kind of UFO in a futuristic space city. The meme says, everyone, quote, "Please stop creating fake war narratives or fake narratives for war." And then the government responds with the Ayatollah on a UFO. And again, you can't talk about fake narratives for war. That'll get you in hot water. By the way,
is he saying that that's him saying, though, that there were fake narratives created to justify the war, right?
With Iran, yeah.
I guess I haven't even paid attention.
But this was a year and this was 15 months ago.
Ah, okay. I thought that was recently.
No, but it's still, the point remains.
Oh, yeah.
Fake narratives for war are like the modus operandi for the global regime. That's what they do. They create false premises for war. And sometimes they use false flag operations to do it. And so sometimes they'll have a false flag operation like 9/11, for instance, which I understand was a real event. I understand that. I actually know people who are in the towers because I'm from New York. Okay. So I get it. But we have that, which leads to a war on false premises in the Middle East and leads specifically to us essentially guarding poppy fields on behalf of Big Pharma for 20 years. And now we're moved out, and all of a sudden the opium trade out of Afghanistan is gone under the control of the Taliban. Whoops, how'd that happen? Why was it there for the whole time? Why were our troops there for that same whole time? And why were Americans dying of opiate overdoses for that whole time? Just saying. So if all that stuff if all of those false premises underlie our war with Afghanistan, how many parts of that war were real as described? And I understand that soldiers dealt with real things and real combat. I totally understand that. And that is a horrifying consequence of the country being lied into war.
Yeah.
And so it's like a really important thing to make sure that we don't get lied into war. And so when a war is announced on television and then we're doomers for questioning the validity of that war because we just have to trust Trump, well, you're kind of going down the terrible road that we all promised ourselves we weren't going to go down, you know?
That's the nice way of putting it. Like these people have totally neutered themselves. They've totally like inverted their entire, you know, what they said they were. They have no principles at all, no integrity, because they are cheering this on. If you previously said you were against it, you can understand all the reasons why Trump is doing it. You can be on board with that. You can get the game theory and all that shit. But to support it and cheer it, you've lost all respect for me. It's a total inversion of your own worldview that I can't even get on board with. Like, you have sold out entirely to be cheering this on, in my opinion.
Well, it seems like they believe they have found a saving narrative out of that allows them to shift focus. No one's going to notice and everyone will stay on board. Now the city of London is responsible for everything. Okay.
So
and I understand the city of, well, some of the theories about it might be retarded, and some of the ways that those theories are being laid out and applied might be retarded, but there is really something there. That's the center of global banking. So
yeah, I was saying it's retarded how these people have, like, there's a sect of people that did not talk about the city of London ever. Like, you guys need to do research into like people's profiles on Twitter. It's very easy to just click the search button when they seem to be talking about a lot of stuff as if they've been talking about it very authoritatively for years. And you'll find out they just started posting about it on March 2nd, the day after the war was announced, because they were cheering for it. And, you know, if you go back even further and look about Iran war and foreign wars, it is totally against everything they said 2 years ago when Biden was in office. It's a cover story for them. It's a narrative shift for them, like you just said.
Yeah. Let's take one more angle at this. Yeah. And by the way, again, I think that the center of global banking is one of the most important issues, which is why I've spent years talking about it when it is relevant. It's not the be all and end all explanation for everything. Okay.
Also, like, how confident are we that is like the actual center of that's like what we're told is the center of banking?
Yes.
You know,
I mean, historically, there has been a case, I think a compelling case made for that. Empire of the City is a book from, I think, the 1930s, maybe the 1940s, that is worth everybody checking out. I would strongly recommend that.
What's it called?
Empire of the City. And you can find PDF versions of that for free online. It's like on Archive and the rest of it. Really interesting read. And some interesting history there. But it just seems like this weird info op that is kind of being widely disseminated now. Like, hey, let's just shift gears and tell everybody that if they're not talking about the city of London right now, they're traitors to the cause. It's like, where did you get this from? And why the immediate strong focus? Now, I want to play two quick video clips. Let me see if I can get these right. Here we go. Here's Pete Hegseth. Now, people are gonna love Pete Hegseth's performances because they love the war bravado that is coming out of the. Go ahead.
I just love that he said squirter on national television describing a missile.
That is pretty funny. I did not actually myself see that.
You didn't see him say that? Iranian squirters?
I did hear that happened. That is very funny.
I'll show you, man.
Here, while you're finding that, I'm going to play this one, if you can pull that up.
Yes.
Like, this is, think whatever you want about it, everybody. Think whatever you want. My opinion is that this is ridiculous and way over the top and kind of a little gay.
Iran is hoping that we cannot sustain this, which is a really bad miscalculation.
for the IRGC in Iran. You see, there's no shortage of American will here. We remember and honor our fallen, those 6 that we will soon welcome at Dover, who gave everything for their country in this mission. We remember them.
There is no shortage of American will to continue fighting this war, and then all the tough talk and the bravado. And there's numerous examples of that this week. What is he talking about?
Yeah.
Americans don't generally want this war. And I mean, is he just saying that once we have started a war, Americans will support it? Well, they'll get on board at the beginning. Do Americans still support the effort in Iraq? Do they still support the effort in Afghanistan? I would suggest that they don't. And I don't think anybody in the truth community does either. So I'm like really wondering why we have to support this talk now, and also wondering why the over the top bravado is necessary. And then we have also the foreign minister from Iran. Did you see this from NBC? Give me 1 second. Actually, hold on.
Here, I'll show the squirter clip while you're doing that.
Yeah, do that.
You have air defenses, and the lot's coming in, and you hit most of it, and we absolutely do. We have incredible air defenders. Every once in a while, you might have one, unfortunately, we call it a squirter that makes its way through. And in that particular case, it happened to hit a tactical operations center.
Hit by a squirter.
Never want that.
Nope, never once.
Okay, so pull this up. This is what the Iranian foreign minister had to say on NBC News. I'm going to actually just speed this up because I cannot tolerate listening to things at normal speed.
Boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So you're saying that Iran is ready and willing to take on the U.S. military if there were to be ground troops?
Well, we were ready for this war even more than the previous war. So you can see, the quality of our missiles, how much they are upgraded after the last war, because we learned lots of lessons. And we are prepared for any other eventuality, even, a ground invasion. So our soldiers are prepared for any scenario. When I said that we are waiting for them, it didn't mean that we are waiting for continuation of the war. No, but we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, any possibility, and we know that we can handle that.
Are your allies Russia and China helping you?
Well, they are supporting us politically and otherwise.
Interesting.
It is interesting. And we can take it both ways, right? There's obviously the interpretation that what he's saying makes no sense whatsoever. Everybody knows that the United States is just blowing the shit out of every part of Iran. They are just decimated. Their navy is floating at the bottom of the sea, which Trump said the other day. And I trust him that things can float at the bottom of the sea. I don't know what it means. It's like a squared circle. But I'm into it. I'm into the idea. Maybe they can be floating toward the top, just stuck down there for some reason. But so we can believe that they're absolutely getting their asses kicked, and that the Ayatollah, who may have been dead like 2 years ago, was definitely killed. And so were all the possible Ayatollah replacements. All of the stories are going to go away. And that, again, I think is the point. This guy, he doesn't seem like he's all that worried. I mean, he just seems like he's saying straightforward, like, no, we're not worried about that stuff. And it is entirely possible that people who know what's going on in Iran don't agree with the mainstream American television understanding, which, by the way, Trump says, just like he did with COVID, that's what's happening. In fact, that's what's happening so hard that, like, we have kicked more ass than you could ever imagine. Like back during COVID, he tried to tell everybody that it's a hoax. You have nothing to worry about. Is it, maybe you'll get sick, but you're not going to die. And people said, no, Trump, you're not trusting the science. We understand that there's a very deadly pandemic, and we're going to do X, Y, Z to look after that. And we want more ventilators, and we want the rest of it. And Trump's like, fine, here are 1 million ventilators. Now do something with them. He goes along with the story and then redirects it. And I think that stuff is important. We should at least consider that he's doing that more than we recognize him doing it, right? Because we're not 100% able to recognize when he's doing these things. And so if we know we can't recognize it all the time, then it might be happening more or less than we recognize it. If it's happening more than we recognize it, could it be happening even more than you think the most possible? The answer is yeah. Could it be happening all the time? Yep, it could be happening all the time too. So we should actually embrace the possibility that that's happening. And here is just kind of the last thing that I want to point out about this. This is the New York Times.
But before you bring that up, so in this scenario, the redirection, what does that look like? What do you, if that's the, what you see, if that is what is potentially happening here, what does that look like?
Well, if it turns out that this is primarily about elements of and realignments within global banking, as things have gone with Iran for a very long time. Same thing is true of Russia for a very long time. At the beginning of the Ukraine thing, the sanctions and the rest of it. Okay. Some of these countries are reorganizing how the money flows with the oil trade, for instance. And some of the oil is being redirected, whether it's being redirected toward Europe or toward Russia or China to India or whatever it is, with Trump's approval, by the way. Things are being rerouted in really important ways that are disrupting the global system as it existed. Certain ships are traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. Other ships are getting stopped. Brian and I went into a thing about that on Daily today. So a lot of stuff is being reorganized in critical elements of how the world operates. Okay. So that's happening. Now, is that happening as a cause of this war? Or is that happening as a result of this war? Or is all of that happening the cause of a war narrative being told to the public so that we reject the rest of what is happening? And I think that that's what's happening, because here's another story from this week. Some of the arms, remember when we were told that we were running out of weapons? And then Trump's like, no, we're definitely not running out of weapons, not the medium weapons, not the high grade weapons. But what we want to do is we want to get so many more elite grade weapons. So we're kicking up defense production. And maybe this will come to the Defense Production Act, which is one of those things that we've spent considerable time on for the last few years. He's bringing weapon systems in from South Korea. Okay. So a nation, quote unquote, because South Korea is not a real nation, it's just Korea. The Korean War is not over. All right. I would suggest that Trump ended it when he went there. I think that was 2019. But it's not officially over. And so for the last 75 plus years, South Korea has been a U.S. military occupation, global regime proxy state. So what does it mean if Trump pulls the military installation out of South Korea? And the story is that he needs it for Iran, but is that really true? And if it's not true, then why is he pulling it out of South Korea? And why are we being told about that? Well, I would suggest that the U.S. military occupation in South Korea is ending. And we'll find out whether or not I'm right about that. I can't possibly know for sure. But with the rebalancing of the world, why would China want a United States military presence in South Korea that they would know has been occupied by the global element for all of these years? Why would they want it? Well, now it's not going to be there anymore because the ammo is needed elsewhere. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of rearrangement of the world that needs to happen. And if you wanted to stop that from happening, the way to do that would be to make sure that everyone across the world didn't want that thing to happen. Okay. And so we are being given stories about these terrible conflicts around the world that make us revolt from what is actually happening there. Now, what's actually happening there might just be the Great Reset, but we can hope that we are being redirected from the Great Reset into something else. And that's what like the whole idea of drafting ultimately is. I know that that's just a term that gets kicked around now, but that is the layout of that part of the theory.
That's interesting. The banking thing, though, Iran, they don't have like a Rothschild central bank, do they?
No.
Are there any ties between?
But there might be. Listen, I'm not the expert on this stuff, so I don't want to get in. I'm not able to get into the details of some of that. But some of the talk this week has been about the fact that they were dealing in renminbi from China, and now they're going to have to shift back their part of the oil trade to the US dollar. A lot of people are saying BRICS is dead as a result of the this Iran exchange. So there are a lot of like really critical elements of how the world is changing right now, the Great Reset agenda, whether it's actually being implemented or it's being thwarted. And the war story is on top of this. And then I would just suggest we take a look at the New York Times article. I'm not trying to make it so you don't respond, but I know that we're kind of going long here.
Yeah.
So this is the New York Times from Wednesday. Iranian TV and social media project defiant and project defiant and distorted view of the war. Okay. So this is America's paper of record telling us that Iranian television and social media are projecting a false view of this war. It's them telling their people the false story. It's not us telling our people the false story. It's them telling their people the false story. Okay. So how is that enabled? And the article I would totally recommend to everybody to see some of the machinations of all of this. But one of the important elements is that they have what we're being told is an internet blackout, a total internet blackout in Iran. But what is the internet blackout in Iran? It is Iran blacking out access to the global internet from coming in and going out. Okay. So they're not able to access the media coming in from United States oriented social media, for instance, and maybe you can get around it with VPNs and the rest of it. But otherwise, they are trying to have a totally internalized information ecosystem within Iran. That's a worthy idea to think about. Now, I'm not for any kind of censorship, but in the information warfare, in the age of information warfare, does it make sense for a country to restrict the access to global propaganda and for the global propaganda access, the global propaganda apparatus to have access to their people? It's a question that I think is worth discussing.
Well, it also, wouldn't that prevent people from outside of Iran getting potentially what's actually going on?
Well, yes, which, you know, the street protests and stuff, all of those are filmed as color revolution content. That's what that is.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody was going crazy last week. Oh, look at them partying in the streets. They're finally being freed. No, they're not. They don't even have an opposition there that's going to rise up and take over. Like, that's not a thing. Okay. We see these celebrations in the streets all the time for all of these events because they make people believe that the events are real and that the events are justified. It's just bullshit. And
also, why are they doing that in American streets? Like, if you're going to celebrate, go do it in Iran. Like, why are you here if you're going to celebrate that there?
Because we will believe absolutely anything that appears on the screen, on the wall, on our desk, or in our pocket.
It's so retarded. Whenever I see that stuff, like people celebrating the liberation of other countries, if that's so exciting to you, go be there and go do that there. Like, this is America. You celebrate America stuff.
It is so weird.
It's so weird. But also that story that you just shared, the New York Times thing, I bet there's an Iranian Times story that's like, here's the overconfident, status of the war according to America. Like, this is, and they're using fake AI videos. They used a video game to hype up the war effort, which the White House did the other day.
And what does it mean if all of the people in control know that this layer is absolute total fakery, that we still just spoon feed ourselves at this point?
Yeah.
Does anybody believe that China and Russia and India and the United States and Iran, and you can just keep going down the list, didn't know how the global oil trade was going to be rearranged? These things have been decided for months, if not years. A lot of it was probably decided during Trump's first term. And now we're seeing it play out. And we're being told a story by the television, whether we're getting mainstream media on our phone from Twitter or from AI, or we're watching it on the wall from Fox News or CNN or the rest. Does anybody believe that that story is being told to us in real time, that these are the real events of the world that we are now being let in on? And and like, oh wow, look at all these things that are happening as a result of this totally random event that no one could see coming.
Yeah. Well, one last narrative I want to talk about with this. I think Ghost is the one who pointed out in our chat. Trump the other day. Well, first of all, the narrative was flying around that we were drugged into the war by Israel, right? And everybody's like upset about that. Like, oh my gosh, we're doing another war on behalf of Israel. And there's a certain group of people that are like upset about that. And then Trump comes out and he says, well, if anything, actually, like we drugged them into the war. And yet Israel's the one that's getting, we're told the brunt of the damage done to them. Like we see these videos of missiles falling on Tel Aviv. How does that make Israeli citizens feel?
Yes.
That Trump is like, yeah, you're in this war because of us now. Like, how do they respond to that?
I guess they would probably not want to have their future decided by Americans, just like we don't want to have our future decided by Zionists, no matter where they are in the global regime. Their project is Israel. That's cool. Go do your project. We don't have to support that.
Just like we shouldn't support choosing Iran's leader. But here we are.
And again, the crazy thing about that is Rubio says that Israel drags us in. Netanyahu that night says that's ridiculous. And then Trump says the opposite thing, siding with Netanyahu the next morning. And so we get all possible views about that. And again, I would suggest that's what the discombobulator is there for.
Yep. Fucking discombobulator, man.
Yep.
We really need to get that on a t-shirt ASAP.
Indeed.
Or you probably have it on your line already, don't you?
Well, I already have. Did I show you the I updated You Sound Vaccinated?
Oh yeah, you sound discombobulated. That's so good.
Hold on,
I did see that. Pull it up.
Yeah. Oh wait, let me do this.
While you're doing that, let's get a quick word from ourselves with some soft disclosure.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These things are not evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
You have the demon otter still. That I guess has there's also he's just fishing in a nice stream.
Yeah, it was originally that, and then we were on Basis Conspiracies, and Zach brought up a demon otter, and a Green Star threw it in there real quick that episode, and we've been using it since, or at least I have been.
That's
fantastic. So that's fun. Yeah. Here's that graphic. You sound discombobulated. That's so good.
Yeah. I mean, so my theory is that the discombobulator is total narrative chaos. Present every possible view and watch people spin themselves out. And if you see people online spinning themselves out, just put that there and don't say anything else. Okay. You don't need to argue with strangers on the internet about the fake news ever.
Yeah, it's sometimes fun though to call them retarded, but yeah, I totally agree.
Yes, but it's way more fun to just send that and then watch them lose their minds.
Awesome, man. I think we should probably wrap it up. It's been a solid episode. Do us a favor, guys, if you're watching, hit that thumbs up. We're not going to be able to read the rants or the boosts because we're obviously not live, but I'll probably be in the chat when this is airing, just to chat with you guys. And also, don't forget to get your GART tickets. We're going to be starting to do those exclusive live streams here probably this next week. So get those tickets, whether that's in person or virtual. Yeah, other than that, do you have an outro video we should do?
Damn, I had a really funny one, I think.
I do have one that's like we may have played it before. It's the one where that comedian with the long red hair talks about how hard it is to be a conservative influencer.
JP Sears? Is that JP Sears? Is that it?
Yeah. Have you seen that video?
I have, yeah. Yeah, and it's good. I mean, I like the video totally. I really do.
But if you have a better one, totally down.
I had something funny earlier today, and I can't remember what it was. But I thought to myself, oh man, that'll be such a good outro video. So now I'm trying to find it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
If not, we can go with this. It's a little long, but I think it's so fitting because everybody's so discombobulated. This is it's apt. We'll say that.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Chris, man, we'll catch you later.
Sounds good, brother.
I mean, look, I don't know what else you people want from me. I've got an American flag. It's really big, for crying out loud. Like, just stop with all the hateful comments. They used to like me. I'd say stuff and they'd just agree. I don't know what the is going on anymore. Hold on, I just need to check my tweet, make sure I got mad at the right people. This comments, shit. Got it wrong again. Tell me what you think of this tweet. I'm all for ICE doing their job. This is what I voted for. No, that's too strong. No, what about we need border security, but this isn't the right way to do it? No, I mean, that's too weak. Okay, I think I got it. ICE was wrong. 3 shots to the face was too many. 1, maybe 2 would have been enough. No, I mean, I don't care either way. It's just, what's the position on this for us? It's hard making conservative content now. Everything you say, there's going to be a rageful mob attacking you.
What, the libs?
No, the conservatives. It's very stressful. Liberals have been leaving us alone, though. Hey, where do we stand on this take over Greenland thing? It's a wild claim. Candace says she doesn't know, but she knows. What do you think that means? I catch hell for every piece of content I make. Like, there's no winning positions you can take with these people, with my people, these whatever they are. Okay, I think this will be a safe tweet. We should bomb Iran because the regime kills protesters. Okay, that's wrong. Delete that. We should not bomb Iran because Israel wants us to. Okay, also wrong. We should not bomb Italy. Should be a safer take. I never thought I'd live in a time where Trump supporters would hate you for supporting Trump. Well, they do a lot of the time. Oh, dude, Dan Bongino's coming back on air. Oh, we hate Dan Bongino now? Is Erica Kirk a CIA asset? I don't know. But Candace said that Charlie came to her in a dream and told her. And I thought it was a credible source. Kind of a direct quote. Your nuanced position on Israel should come down to, do you hate Tucker Carlson or do you hate Ben Shapiro?
I call upon all nations to stop these terrorist jokes. Now watch the drive.
Either way, you're not really going to win, but just pick how you feel about Israel. Let me try this. America first, Israel second. No. Israel 11th. Or America first and Israel is also America. I just don't think you can win on this one or any of them. All right, let me get this right. So if I support TPUSA, I'm potentially supporting the group that had Charlie killed. And if I don't support them, I'm turning my back on Charlie's legacy. Like, what the fuck do I do with that? There's a little bit of infighting amongst conservative commentators now. Do you know Candace Owens and Alex Jones hate each other? And Ben Shapiro hates Megyn Kelly. And if that one ever comes down to fisticuffs, my money's on Megyn Kelly for sure. Hey, Kevin, is it good or bad to be called a Zionist? I don't know. From the same tweet, people are calling me a Jew hater and a Zionist shill. Can't figure out what I did wrong. My views are way down. Like, if you make content bashing the left, everybody's fatigued on it. Not going to watch it. If you make content based on what you think, you'll be hated by half the conservatives. The other half just won't care. No, like, this does not make me a neocon. Why would they say that? Maybe in my content, I should just start character assassinating other conservatives. Add a little something to the discourse, right? Okay, so here's what I'm going to tweet. Candace isn't actually black, and she's a shill working for the CIA. Alex Jones secretly works for Israel and the IRS, and Tim Pool is Chinese. The views are up. That's good. She said Tucker's a Muslim. Have you seen a picture of Laura Loomer? I mean, do you think those are real? No, I think her face is that way on purpose. for some reason. Candace has been saying a lot of things, and just wondered if you knew what to make of it. If I'm following her right, then everyone was an accomplice in Charlie's death except her. So if we're talking border security, we like Trump because he's one of us. But if we're talking the Epstein files, we hate Trump because he's one of them. Is that right? It's weird. Today, the only way to get out of the crosshairs of the angry conservatives is to be a liberal. Maybe I could become a liberal, but I'm not gay. But maybe I could try being gay. Seems like it would hurt. Might be worth it. And now she's saying Charlie was a time traveler? Well, I don't know. Are conservatives pro time travel? I don't know. Maybe I could just try being angrier, be a better conservative. Anyway, it's getting a little dicey as a conservative commentator. It's not what it used to be.